Before we get into the other remedies, we need to talk about something called a deficiency judgment. Deficiency judgment is really the elephant in the room because that's what all the other remedies are designed to avoid. So a deficiency judgment is basically this. Let's give an example. And of course, I'm just making these numbers up as a hypothetical, but let's assume somebody owes $300,000 on a mortgage. For one reason or another, either they can't afford to make the payments, they don't want to make the payments, they stop making the payments. Now, assuming this person doesn't do anything, they don't negotiate with the bank, they just wait till this property forecloses. Eventually, because it's a process that takes time, eventually a foreclosure will be filed, and eventually that property will be sold at the courthouse at something called a foreclosure sale. Now, when the lender gets the property back, and I'm assuming the lender is going to get the property back because if it's like most foreclosure cases, nobody's going to pay more than the lender is owed, which means the lender will become the new owner of the property. Let's say when the lender becomes the new owner of the property, because the real estate market has gone down, that property is now only worth $200,000. So you owe $300,000, but the property is only worth $200,000 at the time of the foreclosure, so your lender has a loss of $100,000. And that loss is referred to as a deficiency. So a deficiency is the difference between what you owe and what the property was worth at the time the property transferred back to the lender. Now, the lender has two basic options. Option number one, they can go back into court and pursue a judgment for that $100,000. And then they can pursue collection off of your non-exempt assets. So what that means is, not only could you lose the property, but the lender could sue you for the difference and take away other assets you have. The other thing that a lender could do is they could write this off as a bad debt. And that's what we want to try to accomplish. So, for example, let's assume, and I'm just going to make this up, let's assume that your lender makes $1 million profit. Well, they have to pay taxes on that $1 million. Now, if they were to write off that $100,000 loss that they had on your property as a bad debt, now they only have a $900,000 profit. So now they'll pay taxes on $900,000 instead of $1 million, and that's going to be a tax savings to them. So whether or not your lender pursues collection of a deficiency judgment or writes it off as a bad debt is going to depend on a number of factors. One of the more important factors is going to be, are you collectible? If the lender believes that you have lots of assets, lots of money in the bank, big income, they may decide to pursue collection. On the other hand, if they think that you don't have much in the way of assets and that you're really going to be uncollectible or difficult to collect from, then it would probably be in their best interest to avoid additional attorney's fees and costs of pursuing a collection and instead write that off as a bad debt.